Yeah, upscale, strategic plan. Uh, think of them all. Those words that are modern speak look very official in Hansard, in a CEO statement, when straightforward words might do. There are so many examples, and I guess we can all have our moan about straightforward words that could be used when all you see is jargon. Access Easy English is a group that wants to see clear communication, more straightforward words and phrases used when they will do the job. They also claim that clear communication is vital to being safe, informed. And Kathy Basterfield, speech pathologist and force behind Access Easy English, is with us now. I think, Kathy Basterfield, many people will have sympathy with your mission. So tell us why it's become a driving force and a mission for you.
Morning, Adam, and thanks so very much. Yeah, look, it is. And before I answer your question, we just have to go back to your last announcement and call it a significant structure.
A significant
What's a structure?
that I'm trying to activate for the people listening.
That's right. But your fire warning just then was a significant structure, which is just another whole piece of jargon. What's a structure?
We've always been a bit frustrated with some of that jargon speak, but what I find interesting about your push is you're saying this is about safety, about being informed, not being shut out. So that takes it a level further where you're saying it goes to a human right nearly.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it is absolutely a right that people have access to information in the way that they can read and understand so that they can make informed decisions. If all we're doing is having information like in government speak, which is what most content comes out in, or in corporate language, the average man on the street has difficulty. But on top of that, we have 44% of the adult Australian population who don't have the literacy to manage a range of day-to-day reading tasks. Not saying they can't read, but that written in content is so complex that it just is this huge barrier to them.
Why do those who write in complex or convoluted phrases and words, and it happens a lot in workplaces, let's face it, why do they do it?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. Some of it is around they're just not aware that no one else reads and writes at the same level that they do. So they think that they're writing for everyone else who's got the same literacy as themselves. It's also part of the corporate look that organisations want to project, and seem to think that makes them look more important than perhaps communicating with the audience. And you often get that thing of it's the corporate message rather than what we want to tell the audience.
So if it doesn't, I mean, it might make someone feel better and more official, but if it doesn't achieve goals and if it doesn't progress work, wouldn't that catch up with all the people using this sort of phrasing?
Well, yeah, it does. The research tells us it does. And, can you imagine trying to find time to sit and read a complex document in a busy day in the office compared to reading a document that you're really sure about the words, that the sentences are really easy to read and understand. And yep, now I know what it means, and away we go and we do the task. Instead, you're spending hours unpacking what someone has tried to write, and they've spent hours packing it.
And requiring help, maybe, having to bring someone in, which brings costs, which brings extra consultancies and I suppose slows everything down, Kathy.
Absolutely. But, the other thing is that many of them are, at that level of literacy, they're tertiary trained people, and they've been rewarded for writing at that level of complexity all the way through their journey. People who, pass their university writing complex language, and then they get rewarded and go up their career path by writing complex language. There's a whole, there's a cycle that just keeps on going. And at the end of the day, we forget that there's people at the end of it who just don't understand it, and particularly when it's public-facing information.
18 past 7. Mike's on the line on 1300 681 666. Mike, language that's unnecessary or difficult. You had a comment.
Hi, Adam and Kathy. I've been wondering, why are experiences increasingly becoming lived experiences? The last time I had an experience, I was well and truly
Your
alive.
heart was beating, Mike.
Absolutely. And surely the only time you need to qualify an experience if it's a vicarious one. Otherwise, you can be pretty sure that the person has lived through it.
Yes, still here, Mike. An interesting point, Kathy Basterfield. Your response?
Oh, absolutely. Completely agree. That lived experience. But I'll come back with you and say, and stakeholder engagement,
Engagement. Oh my word! Don't. I'm being
which is
triggered.
talking to people with lived experience. Oh, actually, no, people who know what they're talking about, who've lived through that experience.
This is very true. So tell me a bit more about Access Early English and what it is you're trying to change in what fields or what kind of
Yep.
settings as well, Kathy.
Yep. So we're actually Access Easy English. So Easy English is a form of writing that drills it down to the most essential information using really simple sentences, getting rid of all the jargon, and not assuming that people know even words that you and I might think are perfectly okay in the everyday. And we support it with images. And the reason being is that we think about that 44%. Irrespective of that, everyone's fluid in where that sits. So you might be okay around, say you know a lot about radio, you'll be fine if it's drill, whatever level it is. But now we're going to ask you about computers and you might go, ooh, now it's about your health. Ooh, actually, that's a bit harder for me to understand. I don't know. Now it's an emergency. And in fact, in an emergency, all of us are highly stressed and all of us have much more difficulty in taking on board the information that we have. And so what we're doing is actually taking that very simplest form of information, not saying you don't know about all those other things, but maybe you don't, and making sure that you know what it is to then make that decision. And so we look at, corporate language is often written at a grade 10 or higher level.
Right.
So, how many people actually want to keep reading at the level they were reading at when they went through university? Not many people. We drill it down to an average of grade 1 level of reading, but it's adult information.
Right, because
So
some
it
people might
doesn't.
hear that and think, well, why, in quotes, dumb down what is sometimes a complex
Mm,
world and complex situations? It sounds like that's
mm,
not what you're attempting to do,
no,
but you're
no.
trying to use as clear a language as possible to describe any sort of complexity.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we unpack phrases or unpack words and remove them completely from the conversation. So instead of using, say, like a word like vaccination, we don't even use injection, which might be sort of something that at that sort of mid-range. And yep, I know what an injection is. Some people don't know what an injection is. Let's call it a needle.
Right.
Or in some communities, we might call it your shot. We all talk about going and getting our flu shot or a jab, and it's your flu jab. So in some communities, we might use that language. In other communities, we might use needle. So it's making sure, and we don't try and define what vaccination is. It just is removed from the content altogether.
This is such an interesting point, and I wonder how much traction or how much response you're then getting from various agencies and places you pitch this to. Kathy Basterfield, we'll leave it there for now, but thanks for talking
Yep,
about Access Easy English and why you see it as such a priority.
absolutely. Thanks very much for your time, Adam.
Kathy Basterfield is a speech pathologist and the force behind Access Easy English. It's probably not a bad time to start a bingo card, is it? Jargon speak and try to think of the most recent examples on a bingo card because I guess we've had underlying strategic frameworks for 10, 20 years. But most recent jargon speak, I quite like this one. Why is stuff pre-prepared? Yeah, what is going on with that? Adam, in the cricket last night, they kept saying ground fielding. It's fielding. Yes, because it's always on the ground, Kim. Fair point. Is there a word or an expression that's bobbed up in recent times and has gone a bit gangbusters in popularity that really irks you, that is unnecessary, that's convoluted? 0467922666. The phone number 1300 681 666. This listener says it's not always jargon that's the problem. Take this is off the back of when this follows is so much simpler. It sure is. It sure is. Extra words when they're not necessary.